I knew there was a cold front out there, but I figured I could either avoid the cold front by staying behind it or delay to miss it.
Cleveland Center, Cessna 4375 Lima, with you at 7,000.
4375 Lima, Cleveland Center, roger.
There's something disturbing about seeing, a wall of clouds that I'm flying towards. And looking back on it, of course, that should have set off a whole lot more alarm bells. But I was like, I'm going to be landing well before I get to that cloud front. I'm going to just continue on through and just be prepared.
The first hint of any kind of problem we had was the fact that he was having trouble holding altitude. There was a lot of updrafts around the mountains, and he kept breaking his altitude.
Because the cloud layer was right below me, I did start to edge up a little bit to stay clear of the clouds, eventually getting scolded by the controller.
Yeah, 4375 Lima, Duche, 400 feet high.
75 Lima, yeah, I'm still trying to see if I'm actually in clouds here, so trying to maybe get up to 9,000. I know I'm getting close.
Okay, well, you got to ask me before you do that, because that traffic out ahead of you is sending to 9, so go ahead and maintain 9 or 1,000 there, 4375 Lima.
75 Lima, will do, thanks.
Well, okay, this is still well under control. I'm clear of clouds, no big deal, and I'm right next to the airport. And that's when I was looking over at the temperature gauge and went, well, it's a degree below freezing. That means I've got freezing conditions below me in those clouds. But I figured I'm going down through it. It's only 1 degree below freezing. I've got to have the freezing level down below me somewhere. At that point, I requested the weather from the air traffic controller. Little did I know that air traffic controllers really don't have weather information in front of them.
Awesome, good time. This is 75. When can I get that weather for Bedford?
I don't have the weather, sir. I can call flight service and get that. This is Cleveland Center.
All right, yes, if you would, please.
No, sir, you need to call flight service and get the weather. I don't have the weather here for Bedford.
Oh, sorry, 75 Lima.
So I told the controller I was going to descend as quickly as I could, looking for the freezing level to get down through it.
75 Lima, I'd like a runway 32 GPS if I could into Bedford.
Yeah, 4375 Lima, your discretion, maintain 4,500.
75 Lima, I'm going to go ahead and move down, see if I can't get into some warmer weather.
Ready?
Bad idea. Cold front's in front of me. Do I really want to try, crossing over the cold front, losing 5 or 6 degrees there? I'm already below freezing. I'm going to gain ice on the way down. Do I want to gain more ice as I go through that and still go searching for the freezing level out at the bottom of that? Unbeknownst to me, the freezing level at that point went all the way into the ground. I was able to maintain 4,000 feet for a couple of minutes, and that's when I noticed that my airspeed was dropping. See, I was in hard IFR at that point. I couldn't even really see the wing struts very well, let alone how much ice was accumulating either on the wings or the wing struts.
Washington 75 Lima.
75 Lima, go ahead.
I am unable to maintain 4,500. I'm getting bounced a good bit here.
Okay, well, I can't give you any lower than that in that area, sir. If you want to climb up a bit until you get established, you can go ahead and climb up.
I was slowly drifting down, and I'd gotten down to about 3,500 feet at that point, maybe 34. And I, just didn't want to lose any more altitude because I knew there was a ridge line below me somewhere around 3,200 feet. I was trying hard to not lose any more altitude when all of a sudden I heard a clattering. Either I ran through a cell of ice, or my instructors also later said it could have been that the ice was breaking away, but I heard this massive clattering. The attitude indicator just spun. Airspeed indicator dropped to 0. The heading indicator started rotating. The turn coordinator showed a full deflection. So at that point, I knew I was in an unusual attitude.
75 Lima, I'm having problems that I just saw the ground way too close in. I'm trying to myself.
He went through the clouds, lost altitude. I found out later that actually he had iced up so badly that the airplane went inverted on him in the clouds. He was watching the trees go by on the hillside as he was coming down.
That's the mental image that still gives me sweats at times. These trees, maybe 1,500 feet in front of the airplane, and me heading right towards them. Somewhere in there was where he asked if I wanted to declare an emergency, and I said, well, yeah.
7-5 Lima, yeah, I am definitely declaring an emergency.
They might be afraid to declare an emergency. They don't, if it's paperwork or, don't want to be embarrassed because they're doing this or whatever. Even though they haven't declared the emergency, we can declare it for them.
Yeah, 7-5 Lima, can I have vectors? I need vectors to the closest I can.
Actually, sir, I lost you in radar contact.
7-5 Lima, I've got 2T9 that shows up on my GPS pretty close.
Okay, that's right behind the last position I had. That would be about 6 o'clock to you and 8 miles. If you want to turn back and head that way, actually.
We decided to try to get him into Somerset, which is right behind him, because most of the icing reports, the heavier icing reports, and that were east of his position because of the front moving through.
I kind of flew along in VFR conditions, staying clear of the clouds towards where the GPS said the airport would be.
We were on the phone with the airport manager. He reported they had a heavy crosswind down there, I think 40-plus mile-an-hour crosswind down there.
As I tried to line up for final on the runway, I noticed that I had the rudder in all the way to the left, and I was still drifting off center line. So obviously the wind was blowing faster than the airplane was able to adjust for. And about that time, the controller came back and said, I've got the weather for you.
Yeah, 7-5 Lima, I can tell you the condition of the runway, it sucks. It's covered in ice.
I was trying to figure out some better option than landing on this, this short strip with drifting snow in the middle of nowhere. And that's when the controller was talking about some other airport to the north.
All right, 4375 Lima, if you want, we can try to get you up to Johnstown. That's just northeast of your position there, if you want to give that a try. They got a tower up there.
And as luck would have it, that airport was located north of where my sectional map cut off. So I wasn't so sure about it, and then he gave me...
Johnstown right now, on their observation, is showing winds 280 at 21 with gusts to 26. We got a half-a-mile visibility up there with light snow and freezing fog. Showing 300 overcast, so we're not doing real good on the ceiling up there.
7-5 Lima, we got anything better?
And about the same time, my radar associate was on the phone with Altoona getting their latest weather report. We had a Colgan pilot come off of Altoona, and he advised that he had good visibility on the climb out, and the winds are out of the north, right down the center line of the runway 30 up there.
It was just the voice from God going, you could survive this. There is a way to get out of this and be alive.
I think that was a big help, to hear another pilot tell him, okay, I just took off, the weather's good here, you can get in here.
So I told the controller at that point that I would make it to there, but there was a ridge line between me and Altoona.
Solo going over the ridge line that I actually had to start reading them off. I'd get a position on him, look at the chart, see what was around there. We had to start giving him tower heights and tower positions relative to his last position. We have our transmitting tower at Blue Knob, which is just west of Altoona. And when he went by that area, I think we figured he was 60 to 80 feet below the top of the radio tower when he went by.
That was when I started noticing ahead of me that the ground was rising and the cloud layer was not. So I was going to have to go back up into the soup, went into the hard IFR conditions, got up to about 4,000 feet. Was just estimating the speed of the airplane at that point by the sound of the propeller. One of those things I remember them making us do, but never thinking that I would actually have to.
We were talking about it afterwards, and Stacy told me that was the first time she ever thought that the people were going to die. At that point, the radar associate's watching for him, the supervisor standing behind me watching for him. The guy at the next sector over, Tyrone sector, he's watching that same area. He's watching to see if he pops up.
All right, 4375 Lima, I'm starting to get hit on your transponder again. Go ahead and hit the ident button. We'll make sure that's you.
And so I started descent, it was sort of a controlled descent, keeping my airspeed up, and eventually I broke free of the clouds. And I said, okay, good. Well, at least I'm clear of the clouds, so I'm not going to accumulate any more ice. I'm able to maintain altitude. Eventually, I spotted the airport, and it was just, life was very good. One of those things about with the landing was that, I had an airspeed indicator that didn't work. I wasn't sure exactly how much ice was still on the airplane. I could see out, and I could see I had, about an inch of ice rind snow on the on the wings and the struts, what I did, and especially because I had plenty of runway there, is I just said, you know, I'm not going to change a thing because I'm flying. So I'm going to get down to like 100 or 200 feet. I'm going to make sure I'm over the edge of the runway before I change anything. That way, if anything goes wrong, at least I've got a runway underneath of me. Once I got over the edge of the runway, I just pulled off power, didn't apply any flaps, didn't do much of anything else except reduce power, and then just let the airplane kind of drift down and land. As I later found out, that's one of the big things to do is, you know, if you're flying the airplane and you've got problems, don't change much unless you absolutely have to, because apparently people apply flaps and that changes the aerodynamics and makes you nose over into the ground. At that point, I just, you know, I landed, slowed the airplane down, taxied off, thanked the air controller, and went over to a parking place and shut down the airplane. The big decision points where I could have made this flight a whole lot less stressful were, first off, I should have taken some more time to look up the weather and check out some of the PIREPs. And there weren't a lot of icing reports going at that time, but I could have at least seen them and maybe pre-planned some alternates at that point. The second decision point would have been when I noticed that the clouds were above the level of the airplane, and knowing that I'm in an airplane without known icing, I should have probably diverted at that point. After that, the next decision point would have been when I was sitting on top of a cloud layer that I knew was 6,000 or 7,000 feet thick, and going, I can find a freezing layer down below me. It's not that far below freezing. Yeah, that's generally a bad idea. You know, it's one thing if you're already stuck in the soup and you notice some freezing, and you think, okay, you know, there's no weather fronts around me. Maybe I can descend and find a freezing layer below me, or maybe I can go up and get clear of clouds. But by then you're already in trouble. So that's there, and it's much simpler. If you're clear of clouds and you notice you're below freezing, stay clear of clouds.